So today we have a Game Boy Advance game. It's Pokemon Ruby, and it's on this terribly corroded board. We're actually going to be moving it over to this brand new PCB. A customer sent this in with the new PCB, and we're just going to be transferring these parts over and trying to save this PCB, this game, so it'll be functional again. Most of these chips, they look like they're in pretty good condition. Obviously, the joints, this crystal might be a little suspicious. And there's a lot of corrosion around these components, but the corrosion doesn't mean it's going to be too bad. So I think what we'll do first is I'm just going to clean this off with alcohol and give it a good scrub, and then we'll take it from there with removing some of these components and moving them over. So I just put some alcohol on there, and we're just going to give it a scrub. Not too worried about the pins or anything over here, just scrubbing around these components. Okay, so that's going to be pretty good for now. Not too worried about the back or anything. There's a lot of corrosion on this board I'm not going to worry about. So let's go over to the new PCB. And we just need to prepare it for some of these components. And I also got to decide how I want to put these the old chips onto this new board. I could tin the pads and then heat it into place. That wouldn't be too bad. I think what I may do is just tin like the corners, maybe two sides, and then I'll heat it in place, and that'll kind of give me some wiggle room to move the chip around. Maybe just tin this top one up here, heat it in place, and then that'll let me have some wiggle room to move it around. So I think what I'll do first is I'll deal with the smaller components. So let me heat my iron up, and then we'll figure that out. Okay, so I got my iron going. So we're going to figure out which components we need. We're going to need this C2. Just going to put some flux down here. We're going to need this R9. I'm going to finish this just flux application for all the parts that we're going to need. Okay, so that's all finished. So now what I want to do is I just want to come in and I'm only going to tin 1/2 of each of these pads. Let me get my solder. So I just want to do this top one. And that's it. That's all I'm going to do for that one. I'm going to do this top corner. And then I want to do this bottom corner. We got C1. Got R5. It's going to be R4. And R6. We're going to have R9. R2, R1, R3 are not applicable here. R7 and C3. We're also going to go ahead and do this corner on the RAM. We're going to go ahead and do one of these pads on the crystal quartz. Got C5. I'll do the top corner on this RTC. And I'll go ahead and do the bottom corner as well. And then we're going to need this C4. And this R8. No. R8's already there. R6. Let me just double check R6. Yes, we do need R6. Okay. Then let me go ahead and do this other lower corner as well. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Now we're going to focus on moving some of these components over and putting them in place, and I'll show you how that goes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put the fine tip nozzle on my hot air. And we're going to heat these components off and put them on the new board. I'm going to turn my air to 385. Turn this, I actually have this top board removable, and I'm going to put this in a manner that's easy for me to grab this component. So I'm going to grab the component first. I'm going to come in with the heat. Got the component off. I'm going to move this out of the way. We're going to come in with the heat. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in this other side. That's really all there is to that with the hot air. So that's not too bad. I'm going to go ahead and do that for the rest of the small components. I'll be right back. Okay, so we got all these smaller components in place. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and touch them up with an iron, just to make sure each one has a proper solder joint on each side. And I'll show you what one of that looks like. And that's it. So I'm going to do that for all of the small components, and I'll be right back. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to heat the board from the back because I don't want to risk putting too much heat on these chips. And I want to see if I can pull these chips off. I'm just going to heat directly from the back. That way I got a little bit of a buffer. So this chip is actually completely vertical right now, and I'm just heating it from the back. There we go. So I got one of the chips off. Let's see if I can get this ROM chip off. Or RAM, sorry. Go. And now just the big one. Let me flip this chip over. I'm just going to reposition this here. I kind of have it just have these little magnets and they're holding this board up. And let's come in with the hot air again. And these chips are going to just be in excellent condition, no bridging pins or anything. Let's see if it'll come off. I'm just barely using any force. Just light persuasion. Going around in circles. There we go. Wow, look at all that corrosion under there. Holy camole. We're going to need to take a close look at the chip to make sure it's not damaged. Ooh, that's hot. Okay. Look at that. Hopefully that's not damaged. We're going to clean all that off. So I'm just going to hold this down. Maybe it'll be fine. But we don't want any of that on the new board. Huh. Okay. That board was really screwed up, that's for sure. Just gonna brush that. Let's go to the next chip. It's the RAM. Let's give that a good scrub as well. Looks good. On the bottom of this other chip, it's probably fine, but I'll give it a nice scrub anyways. Okay, I'm gonna mount the new board to the board holder one more time, and then we'll figure out what we're gonna do to put these new chips on. Okay, so I got it all cleaned, and we're gonna just line this chip up and see how it fits. This little leg is not gonna fit right away, but that's okay. I'll show you what we're gonna do. We're just gonna line it up as best we can by hand, and we're gonna try to leave even spacing in between these pins. And if it's not perfect, that's okay. So I'm gonna press this down. And watch this. When I heat this leg up, it should drop into place. Great. So that's that one in place. Now let's go down here to the bottom corner. And we'll be able to wiggle it just a little bit. And I'm going to get the opposite corner. These are the ones that I tinned. There, so then that's not going anywhere. Let me go ahead and just press down. And let me go back to the other one and press down again, just to make sure it's flush. And we're obviously going to come back and make that a lot nicer, but we just want to hold it in place. So now it's flat against the board. Let's do this. We're just going to come in and touch this up pin by pin. I'll just show you how I do it on one side, and then I'll do the other side off camera. And this one's a little bit bigger than the other chip, the pin spacing. So this won't be too bad. The lighting's kind of difficult with the purple PCB. That's better. I'm going to apply a generous amount of flux. It looks like a lot, but it's really not. It's just close up. And I'm going to come in, I'm just going to use the tip of the iron. I may add a little bit of extra. So what I'm doing is I'm touching the tip of my iron on the pin and the pad. And I'm just going to add a little bit of solder to each one. Just touching it. You can see how that just flows really nicely because we took the time to make sure it was pressed down against the board. I wasn't going to tin all the pads first, and I don't want to really want to heat the chip with hot air. I don't have I mean, if you had a solder paste template stencil, you could do that, but I don't. This is just how I'm going to do it. No bridging, no complications, just nice, shiny solder joints. Look at that. Those are all beautiful and shiny. Very nice joints. So I'm going to do that to the other side, and we'll be right back. So I was doing the other side, and it's just bridge, but I'll just show you what we do. I just come in with a little bit of wick and just touch. That's it. Not too bad, huh? And then come in with some flux again, and it's just easy to clean up. If that ever bridges, you know, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. You get some nice joints. Alright, and I'll keep going. So I think, let me just show you something real quick. Tip of my iron is a lot bigger than these pins. I think I'm going to end up bridging a lot together and creating a lot of frustration. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a lot of flux. I'm going to do this to both situations here. And instead of just trying to do the same thing with that other chip, I'm going to tin these all. And let's come down here and we'll do these other ones as well. Let me add some more flux. Got some on that battery terminal there. That's no big deal. Oops. I just caused the other component, the tombstone. I'll come back and fix that. No big deal. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to fix that component and then I'll show you what we're going to do. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up. I was able to fix that component, no problem. Just clean up a little bit. Cool. Let's go ahead and dry off the board a bit. Okay. Now this might be a little difficult to do. Let's see if I can... I'm going to try to line this chip up. I think what I'd like to do is just bring it pretty close to the edge here, and I'm gonna hold it in place. I just want to touch this one corner. And then I'm going to flip it around. We're going to come to this other side. Huh. I almost wonder if it's not long enough. Interesting. Let me remove this chip completely one more time and I'm going to look at this from another angle to see if it'll fit. So I think with this chip, for some reason this PCB, it's like it's not spaced out just right, like there's not enough room. So I think what we're going to need to do is just put it as close to the edge as we can and then just hope for the best. So let me see if I could tack down this corner. Okay, well, let's turn it around and see if it overhangs or what. That's barely. It's just barely there. So I'll hold this down here. Do some more flux. I wish whoever designed this PCB made it a little bit larger for hand soldering. That's fine. So here's where things are going to get interesting, because I already tinned all the pads. There is that one pin that's just a little bit over. Let's see if I can move him. There we go. So let's flux all of these. And then what I'm going to do I am going to hold this. Let me actually come in and I'm just going to press down. And we're going to heat these pins just on this side. And let's check for any loose pins. I'm hoping it'll all be good. I don't want to poke too hard. Looks good. None of those pins seem to be loose. So let's go ahead and do the other side now. Whoops. I think we'll be able to see this one a little bit clearer. I'm going to come in and hold this down. And I'm just going to come in right on top and press lightly. Yeah, look at that. Release. Wait for it to change back to solid. Those are beautiful. Just do a quick test. I don't think it'll be... That's beautiful. Okay, we've got one more. This is RTC chip. And I just gotta figure out which way this goes. So I'm actually just gonna come in and hot air this one, because whatever. Let's get it liquid. Whoops. I'm just going to press down. That looks good. Let's go ahead and do those last legs. And it's just the same thing as before. I'll be right back when that's done. Alright, so we got our PCB with the new chips on it. Just going to stick it in to drop it. I'm going to stick it in the housing. Stick it in this Game Boy, and it's working. Awesome. The clock isn't going to work because I don't have the battery in yet, so let's go ahead and do that now, and then we're going to call this thing done. So this battery's a little bit finicky, but that's okay. Let's do what we can. I'm going to turn my fume extractor back on, and I'll put a big old blob of solder here. Alright, and I would like to figure out how I'm going to line this up. I'm going to tilt the battery up a little bit. Let me put this in a frame and I'll show you. I'm going to make the solder molten. There we go. That's not going anywhere. I'll hold it down in place firmly. Let's come around this other side. This battery, like the tabs were super long. So let me add some flux here. Let me create a nice pillow of solder on this joint. To avoid burning my fingers, I'm gonna press this down. Drag this over. Wait for that to cool. Cool, I don't think that's going anywhere. Perfect. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. All right, we'll give it a good clean and then we'll test one more time. We'll see if the timer's working. So I can confirm that it looks like the timer is working. I set the clock in the game and I came back to it about 5 to 10 minutes later and it had moved. The minute hand had moved, so I'm going to call this a success. Didn't look like any of the components were bad. It was just that board that was just awful. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a game cartridge that you need restored, I do this service for a pretty decent price. You can see the contact information if you want something like this done for yourself. I do mail-in service and it's a pretty quick turnaround. So thanks for watching and see you in the next one.